What is going on, YouTube? It is your boy Tropical NHL back at it again for a brand new YouTube video. Today we're going to be talking about the Montreal Canadiens and we're going to recap their draft. I'm going to grade every single draft selection of the Montreal Canadiens and I'm going to give you guys my opinion on every single one of them. I'm going to give you ratings, I'm going to give you statistics, and I'm going to give you guys my opinion on every single selections. I have everything written on my phone. So yes, I'm going to rank all the prospects at the Montreal Canadiens, and I'm going to give an overall ranking of this draft as well for the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah, before getting into that, I invite you guys to subscribe if you haven't already. We're trying to get the 5K subscribers before the start of training camp, so if you could help me out with that, that would be absolutely amazing. Let's try and get 200 likes on this video. That would be absolutely amazing. And if you want to have really nice conversations, and if you want to argue with other Habs fans, I invite you guys and suggest you guys to join the Discord. The link will be in the description. So yes, let's get right into it. So we're going to go from the last pick to the first pick for the Montreal Canadiens. So we end up with the bigger players that the Canadiens drafted. So we're going to start with the 7th round pick of the Montreal Canadiens, 197th overall. The Montreal Canadiens went ahead and selected defenseman Luke Mittelstadt from the University of Minnesota. Luke Mittelstadt is 20 years old, so it was his second year of eligibility at the NHL entry draft. He was playing in the Big Ten with the University of Minnesota. Like you guys all know, with Logan Cooley, there was all those guys, Matthew Knies playing with Minnesota. They went in a pretty decent run this year, and he played 38 games, got 21 points as a defenseman. He's a defenseman that gets a pretty decent amount of points. He is a guy that is going to get assists, but I don't really see him becoming anything at the NHL level. He could play a couple of games here and there. He is going to play in the AHL. He is going to be a professional hockey player, but I do not see him becoming an impactful player in the NHL. And it's really rare that players drafted in the 7th round become anything that decent in the NHL. He has the upside to be pretty decent, but I strongly doubt he will get himself a place in the Canadiens lineup in the future. I could be wrong. He could be used in a trade at some point and get into another team's lineup. But as for the Montreal Canadiens, I really do not see him being a part of the future. So I'm just going to give this pick a C-. It was a 7th round pick. I mean, you just take a chance on someone and hope that he becomes something great. But yeah, 7th round picks are like always like hard to talk about because like they're 7th round picks. There's a reason why they're getting drafted in the 7th round. There's a reason why they're still available in the 7th round. So yeah, C- for Mittelstadt I think is pretty fair. This pick I actually really liked. Montreal Canadiens drafted in the 6th round, 165th overall. With that pick, they selected center Philip Erickson from Regehr. He is a really underrated player, I think, in this draft, and I think that he is untalked right now by Montreal Canadiens fans. Like I said, he comes from Regehr HC in the Swedish Hockey League. He played mostly of this season in the Swedish Junior Hockey League, where he got 10 points in 11 games as an 18-year-old. He was in his first year of eligibility at the draft. He did pretty good, 5'10", 161 pounds. He's a bit light, like he need to gain a bit of muscular mass, but he is pretty decent. He played 2 games in the Swedish Hockey Leagues. He got 0 points, but still, he played at a pretty decent level and got a pretty decent amount of points. So at the 6th round, for a player like that, Philip Erickson has a pretty good upside, in my opinion. I think that his ceiling could be like a bottom middle 6 player, like playing on the 3rd line. Could be a possibility for Philip Erickson, and I think that he is one of the underrated pickups of this draft. He's not going to be a superstar, but I feel like he has what it takes to become a good NHL player in the future. So yes, it will be really interesting to follow what he's going to become over the next couple of years. But yeah, Philip Erickson, pretty underrated pickup I can't use. I don't know if they watched him or they just took a chance on the guy. But for this one, I'm going to give a rating of B+, because this guy at the 6th round is really good. Like I said, I think he has what it takes to be an NHL player in the future. He's going to play a couple more years in Europe. He's going to have to go through the AHL, but he has what it takes for me to be a bottom six, middle six player in the NHL if he progresses well and if he has the dedication to get better, learn how to transition into North America and into the NHL. Now, with the 144th pick, the Montreal Canadiens went and drafted a goalie from Russia playing in the NHL, Yevgeny Volkov. I mean, this one is pretty decent as well. 5th round, you have nothing to lose. You're taking a chance on a goaltender. Y'all know it. Most of the good goaltenders in the NHL right now and all the good ones that are coming are mostly Russian goaltenders, and they usually go a bit under the radar in the rankings of the draft for a couple of them. So taking a chance on one Russian goaltender was a pretty good idea in my opinion. He was playing in the MHL with the Montreal. I don't know how to say the name of that team, but yes, he got some pretty decent statistics over there. A 927 save percentage, 2.12 goal against average. In the playoffs, he got a 931 save percentage. So some pretty good statistics for Yevgeny Volkov playing in the MHL. And I think that he is going to be one of the best goaltenders in the Habs system. And I think that his ceiling is really, really high, but he also has a big bust potential. But yeah, the Habs took a chance on him, and you can never go wrong with Russian goaltenders nowadays in the NHL. So I think that in this draft, it's a pretty good pickup by the Canadiens, pretty underrated one again. And I'm going to give this one a B, like a huge B, like a pretty good B. I think at the 5th round, this is a pretty good pickup for the Canadiens. With their other pick in the 5th round, the Montreal Canadiens selected at the 133rd overall Sam Harris, who is a left winger coming from Falls in the USHL. I mean, the USHL usually have a couple of surprises here and there. Is Sam Harris one of them? We're going to take a look at it. At 19 years old, he was a bit older than everybody. He was playing in the USHL still. He's probably going to make the jump in the NCAA in the next couple of years. He got 56 points in 56 games. I already saw some people saying that this guy is the new Sean Farrell, but no, Sam Harris doesn't have the potential of a Sean Farrell. I don't see him becoming anything in the NHL. He is pretty decent. He will have a professional hockey career, whether if it's in Europe or in the AHL, but I don't think that he has what it takes to be an NHL player. He's a pretty good goal scorer, but like I said, playing in the USHL, most players are like 16, 17. He was 19, and he only got 56 points. Sean Farrell got more than 100 points when he was in the USHL at that age. So, no, he's not a comparable to Sean Farrell and Sam Harris. I think there were a couple of players that are still available at that spot that the Canadiens could have taken, and Sam Harris was not one of them. And I was pretty disappointed about that pick. I went and watched a couple of highlights. I'm not convinced at all, so I'm gonna give this one a D note, and I have no idea if it's gonna turn out good or not, but this is how I'm feeling right now. So a huge D for Sam Harris. So in the 4th round, with the 128th overall, the Canadiens went ahead and drafted a guy from the QMJHL, second goaltender of the Quebec Ramparts. We saw what the Ramparts did this season. They won 3 trophies. They won the Memorial Cup, the President Trophy, and they also won the regular season trophy in the QMJHL. And Kante Miller was a part of it. He was the second goaltender. The Montreal Canadiens decided to take a chance on him at the 128th overall. And yeah, it's pretty decent. He got some pretty decent statistics playing over there. He played in 20 games. He won 14 of them, lost 4, save percentage of 911, goal against average of 2.11. Pretty decent statistics, but he had the best team in Canadian junior hockey in front of him. He looks kind of lanky in the net a little bit. He could turn out to be a great goaltender, but I don't see him having starter potential. Could become a good second goaltender, a good third option in net, maybe being a first goaltender in the AHL that's able to go and play a couple of games here and there in the NHL. But I would have rather seen the Montreal Canadiens take a chance on the other Quebec Rampart goaltender in Rousseau that went undrafted again. I don't get it, man. The guy went on and won absolutely everything this year with the Ramparts, but nobody took him. I would have loved the Montreal Canadiens to take a chance on Rousseau. They took Miller, and yes, it's not too bad, not too good. I think there were better options, like Milic, for example, as well. Milic would have been great. So I'm going to give this one a D. just because he lacks a bit of athleticism. Like I said, he looks a bit lanky in net, and I don't see him having a tiny bit of starting potential. I think his ceiling is as a second goaltender in the NHL. So yes, with the other options like Rousseau, Milic, I think this one is a bit of a disappointment. I think they just wanted to show that they were gonna draft in the QMJHL. So yeah, this one I'm gonna give a D as well. I'm not too convinced about Kante Miller, but I hope he proves me wrong. With the 110th pick of this draft in the 4th round, the Montreal Canadiens drafted defenseman Balkan Kunyoshkov from the KHL. And this one is pretty interesting. Like, this one is interesting. When I heard his name, I was like, who is that again? And when I looked into it, I was just like, all right, this might be okay, actually. Playing in the KHL this year, probably the second best league in the world, best league from Russia. We saw it multiple times. Player that comes from the KHL and the NHL usually turns out really, really good when they have decent statistics. He is a right-handed defenseman. He is 20 years old, a bit older than all the guys that were drafted in this draft, but still 25 points in 64 games in the KHL at his age is pretty good. He also got 5 points, 5 assists in 10 games in the playoffs in the KHL. So this guy has a tiny bit of offensive potential. I tried to watch some highlights, some clips of him, but there's not much about Balkan Kunyoshkov on the internet. Like, it's hard to find some things. I only have statistics, but when you look at statistics, he looks pretty decent. And at the 4th round for the Canadiens, they gained a chance on a guy from the KHL. They did that with Romanov. When Romanov got drafted, we were like, who is that? Who is that kid? And he turned out really good. So I think that this is a good guess by the Canadiens. He produced decently in the KHL at a pretty young age as a defenseman as well. So it could be interesting to see how he develops, and he could be a big surprise for the Canadiens in the future. Yes, it does not mean that he's going to produce in the NHL. Just like Chris Weidman went to the KHL for a couple of years. He produced decently, and when he came back in the NHL, he wasn't able to produce. It just shows that the NHL is still a way higher level league than the KHL. But Weidman was over 30, and this guy is only 20, so he still has a lot of room to develop. And I think he's going to be one of the guys that you will need to keep an eye on, because he could turn out really, really well, and he could be really, really interesting. I'm going to give this pick a note of B for the Montreal Canadiens in the 4th round with Balkan Kunyoshkov. Really, really interesting pickup I can't choose in the Montreal Canadiens. This one is really, really interesting. I already made a video giving my opinion on this one. With the 101st overall pick, the Montreal Canadiens have drafted left winger Florian Jack from the Hamilton Bulldogs in the UHL. You know it, Florian Jack, brother of Arbor Jack. And yes, it was a pretty cool pickup by the Canadiens in the 4th round. I mean, yes, it's cool. They drafted Jack's brother. We wanted it to happen. I made a video talking about this like 8 months ago, saying that the Canadiens should pick up Florian Jack because they have the character, they have the grit, they have the dog in them, and you need players like that in your system, and you never know. Like, Arbor Jack came out of nowhere. He developed like crazy. Same thing could have happened with Florian Jack. But at the 4th round, 101st overall, I was not too convinced. Like, I feel like Florian Jack could have went undrafted. I feel like Florian Jack would have been available in the 5th or 6th round. So yeah, he might have some information that I don't have. Maybe some other teams wanted him as well. It's a possibility. But I don't feel like Florian Jack is going to be like anything special. I don't think he's going to be as good as his brother. His ceiling is probably going to be like a 4th liner, a 4th line grinder. So don't expect Florian Jack to be as good as Harbor. I think that he's going to play a couple of seasons still in the OHL. Like this season, he only got 25 points in 68 games. He's going to go through the AHL for a couple of years, and maybe in 4 to 5 years from now, we might see him on the 4th line. He could be a similar player and bring a similar element as Michael Pezzetta for the Canadiens. Fight, score a couple of goals here and there, play with intensity. That's what his ceiling is, like a Michael Pizzetta type of player. He's able to score goals. Like, he got 13 goals in the OHL this year. He's going to go back and play another season in the OHL, might get traded to a better team. So it's going to be certainly interesting to follow him over the next couple of seasons. And yeah, I just hope that he comes to Montreal in a couple of years, play on the fourth line, and have a similar impact as Michael Pizzetta in the near future. That would be awesome. But don't expect him to be a top 6 player. Don't expect him to be a third liner. Don't expect him to be on the power play. He is not that type of player. So for this one, just because I thought it was pretty cool, but the fact that he drafted him too high, in my opinion, I'm going to give this one a C. Like, he's a future fourth line grinder. Nothing too crazy about this. So yeah, I think a C is pretty respectable. Like, for Florian Jack, it's really, really cool. I was so hyped up when I saw it. But yes, they could have gotten a better player, in my opinion, at that spot. But it's still really, really cool as a story, and for the Montreal Canadiens and for the fan base as well. This one is my favorite pickup by the Montreal Canadiens. With the 69th overall pick, the Montreal Canadiens drafted goaltender Jacob Fowler from the Phantoms in the USHL. Really, really good pickup. I'm a huge fan of this pickup by the Montreal Canadiens, and I'm really hyped up for this guy. I mean, for me, Jacob Fowler was the second best goaltender in this year's draft. I wanted the Canadiens to select him at the 37th overall before they traded the pick. It was either Habral or him for me. Like, those two guys were the best goaltenders. Jacob Fowler has a starter potential in the National Hockey League in the future, and I think that he is right now the best goaltender prospect that the Montreal Canadiens have in their system, in front of Primo, in front of Dobash, in front of all of those guys. Jacob Fowler is the real thing, in my opinion. And he has some family in Quebec. He said that his father married a Quebec-born woman. I think that's what he said. He visited Quebec City, visited Montreal multiple times. He already said some French words in interviews, so he looked really happy to be with the Montreal Canadiens. So yes, he's 18, he's 6'1", 212 pounds. He still has time to gain some mass. He's really, really athletic, and he got amazing statistics in the USHL this season. They won a championship with his team as well. Just look at that: 40 games played, 27 wins, 9 losses, save percentage of .921, goal against average of 2.28, and in the playoffs, where they won a championship in 9 games played, he won 8 of them, lost only 1, save percentage of .952, and a goal against average of 130. Playing in the USHL, there are a lot of good players that were drafted in this draft coming out of the USHL, and there are a lot of good players playing in the USHL. So having those statistics at that age in the USHL is really, really good. And this guy has a ton of potential. He's going to be with Boston College next season. It's going to be really, really interesting to follow him. But like I said, this guy has starter first goaltender potential in the NHL. He has everything he needs to be a first goaltender in the NHL, and it's going to be really, really interesting to follow him. Remember the name Jacob Fowler, and yeah, be hyped about this guy, because this is a really, really good pickup by the Montreal Canadiens, in my opinion. And last but not least, David Reinbacher, first round pick by the Montreal Canadiens, 5th overall. Y'all probably saw my reaction on TikTok. I was not too happy about it. Drafted Reinbacher!
And a nice moment. David, congratulations. This is the moment you've been waiting for.
There's no way you just did that! Don't get me wrong. Reinbacher has good second or third defenseman potential. He's going to be good for the Montreal Canadiens. He got decent statistics playing for Claughton HC in the Swiss A-League. He has a ton of potential, but skipping on guys like Mishkov, skipping on guys like Leonard, skipping on guys like Benson, and all of those guys for a defenseman in the best offensive draft in the decade is going to haunt us for a very long time. I think that Mishkov's going to come. Mishkov's going to be amazing. Mishkov's going to haunt us for a really long time. Reinbacher's going to be good, but he was not best player available at that pick at all. He was not second best player available. He was not third best player available. And the Canadiens apparently got a really good offer from the Predators. They got offered Askarov, and I think the 2 first-round picks of the Predators for the 5th overall, and I would have rather seen them do that than drafting Reinbacher. So I think they mismanaged a little bit the value of that pick. And even though Reinbacher is going to be a really good asset for the Canadiens in the future, because they mismanaged the value of the pick and because they did not take best player available and they drafted for need, I'm going to give this one a D note. And yeah, I was not really happy about it. I'm still skeptical, but I'm going to give the kid a chance. Best of luck to Reinbacher. And for all the people that hate on the kid, don't hate on him. It's not his fault. It's the fault of Kent Hughes. They made a bad decision. It's a bad decision as of right now, but it still has a lot of time to change. That's my overall grading for this draft for the Montreal Canadiens is a C-. It was pretty disappointing. We wanted the Canadiens to draft Andrew Crystal. With the second first round pick, we wanted to have to draft Habral, we wanted to have to draft Leonard, Bishkov, and all of those guys, and we ended up with Reinbacher and Alex Newhook. I think it's a bit disappointing. I think Newhook is a good pickup by the Canadiens, but not with Reinbacher. It doesn't really fit properly. I think the Canadiens needed that superstar caliber forward, and they would have been able to draft that guy with the 5th overall pick, and they didn't. So yeah, a lot of goaltenders, a lot of weird pickups as well into the later rounds. So yeah, C- for this one. It was pretty disappointing, but yeah, trust the process, trust Kent Hughes. He might come out with a pretty huge trade in the next couple of weeks that just makes complete sense with the picks he made. We'll see, but it's going to be certainly interesting. Give me your gradings in the comments below. Give me your notes. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share the video. Leave a like. Leave a comment. Do anything as you want. And yeah, that was it for the draft. That was it. We made videos nonstop about the draft for like a month and a half. And now it's finally over. This was my last video on the draft as a whole. Gonna talk about the players individually, that's for sure. But talking about the NHL draft, this was the last one. Let me know what you guys all think about this in the comments below. It's been your boy Tropical NHL. I'll see y'all later for another video. Bye-bye.